Individually, we are one drop. Together, we are an ocean. I, Srishti Agrawal, session coordinator of today's session, welcome you all to our today's Curiosity Meet. Life under the sea. Behalf of all the Curiosity Club members, I wish a very amazing afternoon to our respected chief guest, principal sir, director sir, vice principal sir, dignitaries, teachers, and all my dear friends. First of all, I want to say a big thank you to our today's chief guest, Vishruta ma'am. Ma'am is marine biologist. Ma'am is marine biologist. She lives in Mysore. She has done research work on dolphins and on microplastic. Thank you, ma'am, for your presence and taking out your valuable time for today's session. As we all know, life is an adventure. Be an explorer. With this, I would like to invite our young scientist, Snehi Agrawal, for her curiosity talk.
Thank you, Srishti. Smell the sea and feel the sky. Let your soul and spirits fly. A very peaceful afternoon to one and all present over here. I, Snehi from Standard 6, Kalpana Chawla, going to take you to the world of sea creatures. So let us meet the chocolate chip starfish. Chocolate chip starfish can be found in Pacific Ocean, Indian Ocean, and Red Sea. They mostly live in warm water, warm ocean and sea. Starfish do not have mouth on the top of their bodies. Their mouth are in bottom of their bodies. They grow up to 5 to 25 inches long. And now we have with us the sea turtle. The sea turtle eat jellyfish, seaweed, shrimps, crabs, etc. They most live in warm waters, all with at least 100 lbs. There are 7 different types of sea turtles. Now, beautiful mandarin fish. They have psychedelic colors, very beautiful but hard to find. They do not have scales, usually found right before sundown. Live in groups from just 2 fish up to 5. And here is the amazing fish, the puffer fish. Size ranges from 1 inch to over 2 feet. They do not have scales. They have pointy and tough skin. And they have 4 sharp pointed teeth. Some of them are poisonous also. Now, I would like to share a beautiful thought. Curiosity is the spark behind the spark of every great idea. The future belongs to the curious. With this beautiful thought, I had completed my presentation.
Thank you, Snehi. It was really awesome. That was a beautiful view of ocean creatures. Now I would like to request Vishruta ma'am to ignite our curiosity with your words of wisdom.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well.
Good
Afternoon, ma'am.
afternoon. Good afternoon,
Yeah,
ma'am.
Afternoon.
hi.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good
Afternoon,
afternoon,
Good
ma'am.
ma'am.
afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon,
So,
ma'am.
hi. So, like Shrishti mentioned, I'm Vishwata, and I have been a marine. I'll just start my presentation. Hold on. So,
Good afternoon.
Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You can see me as well, right? Okay.
Yes,
Assuming
ma'am.
yes. Okay.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I'm Vishka, and I have been a marine biologist for 1 year now. I finished studying 1 year ago, and ever since then, I have been working on a project to do with dolphins, like Shishti and Sir also must have mentioned to you. I'm really excited to be here and to talk to a group of such enthusiastically curious children from school. And I'm really excited to share like whatever knowledge I have about the oceans. But before I do that, I am actually going to tell you about what I did for the last 1 year. So do you recognize what that animal is on the screen?
The dolphin.
Ma'am, dolphin.
Ma'am, it is a river
Yes,
dolphin. Ma'am,
yes,
dolphin.
I
The
yeah, it's a river
Ganges
dolphin.
dolphin.
Have you ever heard of a river dolphin before?
No, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes? Okay, I can hear a
Yes,
bit of
ma'am.
yes and no's. All right. So let us see about okay, so this is the difference between the dolphins found in the river, which is the picture on your left, and the dolphins found in the sea, which is the picture on your right. Can you possibly tell me a few differences that you can see about them on their faces at least?
May I? Ma'am, may I?
Can I, ma'am?
Yeah,
May
yeah,
I?
go ahead. Go ahead, go ahead, go
Ma'am,
ahead.
in the river dolphin, the river
The
dolphin
river
mouth is
dolphin
big.
have the sharp teeth.
Mouth is big, yes. Mouth is
The
big.
eyes,
Then,
the eyes are different.
yes, eyes are definitely different.
Ma'am,
And
river dolphin
anything else?
sharp.
And ma'am,
Ma'am,
color also.
Body shape as well.
ma'am,
Yeah, body shape.
ma'am,
If someone's asking me a question that I can't see, I can't hear, can you just put it in the chat box by any chance? Okay, if you have any questions, you can leave it on the chat box. I'll get back to you, okay? Because I can't hear everybody. Like, if it's a very big question, I'm not able to hear it. So, let's go back to the presentation. Okay, yeah, the river dolphin, right? So, I heard that you said it has a long mouth. The eyes are different. Like in the river dolphin, can you see my cursor on the river dolphin picture?
yes, ma'am.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
yeah, you
Yes,
see where
ma'am.
the cursor is right now? That's actually the eye of the river dolphin. Okay. So you can see that there's a huge difference, and it's not just in the way they look that they're different, but the way they behave is also different. We must have seen a lot of you guys must have seen like on National Geographic or even videos on YouTube that sea dolphins are very friendly and they are in huge groups, right? And they play with each other and they play with us also sometimes. They interact with human beings. But river dolphins is a whole different case. Like they're very solitary. They either move alone or with maybe one other dolphin. And if there's a mother, then it'll probably be going with its calf. But you can never find them moving in groups, right? And they are, you see how in this picture also, in this animation that you can see both the river dolphins, you can see the eyes of the river dolphins. They are just a small point compared to the sea dolphins. Why is that so? Any idea? To give you a hint, take a look at the water surrounding the river dolphin. Does it look very clear?
No, ma'am. It is.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Muddy.
It is
No, ma'am. It
completely
is not
muddy.
clear.
No, ma'am.
Very dirty and muddy.
Ma'am, it is
So
very
imagine
muddy.
living in a river. Yes, it is muddy. So imagine living in a river and it's all muddy around you and you can't see. What is the point of having eyes, right? There's no point of having eyes. So these river dolphins have lost are they're basically blind. They can see very, very, very minimally, very little. So that's why the eyes have shrunk to a very small pin-sized hole, which will just allow enough of light to enter. So do you know how dolphins otherwise find food?
Yes, ma'am. I know.
What, ma'am?
Okay, can you tell me the word that the
Yes,
kind of process they use to find food?
ma'am. Use the method of echolation.
Yes, echolocation. Perfect. So that is how these river dolphins are able to survive in the rivers. If the river dolphins did not echolocate, they would be lost because they can't see in the muddy water. And well, if you can't see, what other sensory option? They are like us. They're like human beings, right? They rely a lot on sound, eyesight. We don't see through smell, right? Yeah. So it's because of echolocation that they're able to find their way around in the river. All right. And I'm just going to tell you the story of how these dolphins even ended up in the river in the first place. I mean, they're supposed to be sea creatures. Obviously, living a life in sea seems far more easier, right? I mean, they have a lot of family to live with, a huge group. They can see, they can, well, fish and hunt together. So how did they end up in rivers? Does everybody see the map, India map over there?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Can someone tell me the dark blue region, right? What rivers are there in the dark blue region?
Ganga.
Yes, and one more.
Brahmaputra.
Okay, Brahmaputra. Yes, perfect. So Brahmaputra and Ganga, both these rivers are there. So the story goes like this: like many, 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 probably million years ago, a couple of million years ago, the sea level has not always been the same as it is today. You know now that the sea level is rising, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Everybody knows the sea level is rising.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So there was a
Yes,
point
ma'am.
of time earlier in history, way, way, way back, millions of years ago, where the sea level was actually higher than what it was today. So whatever land we're seeing now was once upon a time submerged underwater, right? So at that particular point of time, the dolphins were entering onto the land which is now our, West Bengal and Assam. Okay, but eventually the sea level started dropping again. So the Earth has this thing where the sea level rises and it drops and it rises and it drops. So right now it's rising again. So like that, when the sea level started dropping a couple of million years ago, this river dolphin got trapped inside the land. The sea level went down. So whatever little was remaining in the whatever little water was remaining in the land became the rivers. Okay, and they got trapped in these rivers, and so they eventually just lived there. They decided to stay there. They didn't decide to go back to the sea, even though there was probably a small opening, but they decided to stay in the rivers, and they have adapted like this. Now there are four different river dolphins in the whole world, and one of the species, which is the Gangetic river dolphin, is in Brahmaputra and Ganga rivers of India. The other three, one is in China, one is in South America, in the Amazon river. It's in the Amazon River, and the third one is in Pakistan. You see the light blue color on the map here.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that is where
Yes,
the Indus
ma'am.
River dolphin stays in the Indus River. All right. Okay. So and oh yeah,
Okay, ma'am.
since I was working in Brahmaputra mainly. That you see the boat over there, that was the boat that we worked on. I lived on that boat for about a month or so, and it was a lot of fun. It was amazing experience. It truly is like an adventure if you get into this field. And okay, you see the river bank, the very sandy river bank that we are all walking on. That's my team over there on the picture. So you see the sandbank. Um,
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
so in science,
Yes.
when you're studying
Yes.
an animal, okay, when you're studying an animal in its natural environment, you don't just focus on that animal. You also try to see what other animals are living in that habitat, like what other animals call that place its home. Okay, so not only did I get to study a river dolphin which is living in the river, but we also had to find out what other animals were living and coming and drinking water on the shores, or what is the population of animals on the sides of the river. And it was a very huge river. Like this region is in a forest actually, and I got to see some very interesting things. So one way of finding what other animals are there on the river bank is not by sitting and waiting for the animal to come and then you write it down. No, Instead, there's a much easier and more exciting way to do it. So what we did is that we learned to identify footprints. I don't know how clear that picture is. Can you guys see the footprints?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am. It's clear.
Yes,
Any?
ma'am.
It's clear? Okay, good.
Yes,
Any
ma'am.
vague idea who those footprints belong to?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me. Who does it belong to? Okay, I'm just going to tell you guys. So that footprint belongs to a tiger. You can see that is its palm here. Okay, and these 1, 2, 3, 4. So those 4 are its front fingers, I guess I can call it. All right, and so it actually is supposed to look like this. I'm not sure if you guys will be able to see this. Can you see it? You see these here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
So
Yes,
these are
ma'am.
all the kind of
Yes, ma'am.
footprints that big.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So these are all the footprints that big carnivores like leopards,
Yes, ma'am.
tigers, lions. You can see the Asiatic lion also here, and here's the tiger. So this is the footprint that you're seeing right there. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
and that's a picture that I took. I was so excited because,
Yes, ma'am.
well, I think maybe in my imagination, probably the tiger would have passed like an hour or two before we got there, and we could record the footprints of it. It was very exciting for me. Okay, that's about it. So I spent 1 year working on the river dolphins, mostly counting them. And now, how did I even get to such an exciting field? Okay, I studied something called marine science. So, what is this marine science, right? It's also called as oceanography, which means the study of oceans. Okay, and I want to ask you, since you're all in middle school, are you familiar with physics, with the words physics, chemistry,
Yes, ma'am.
biology, and geology?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes,
geology
ma'am.
also.
Yes, ma'am.
Brilliant. Okay, awesome. So I am going to tell you what all of these, so all of this physics, geology, and chemistry and biology is what I studied. I studied all 4 subjects because you can't separate the ocean as just biology or just one of the subjects. It's a accumulation of all 4, and I'm going to tell you how exactly that works. Okay, now let's talk about physics of the water. How am I going to study physics? Like, what would it involve? Okay, this animation that you see here is actually from a satellite that NASA deployed. So here, what NASA is trying to record is the changing sea surface temperature, as in the temperature of the water just on top of the ocean. Okay, so it's trying to record the change in temperature with seasons and between years. All right. So this is from 1997, the year 1997 to 2015. And you can see, so anybody who is studying physics and who want to know how the change of temperature is affecting something else, they can go through the satellites and they can download the information, and that's how you're going to see it. So this is just temperature. Yeah, is somebody asking me something?
Vishruta, I think
Yeah.
somebody might trying to ask you the question. Sorry to interrupt you
Ha.
here as well.
No, no,
You
it's
can
okay. It's
see here
okay.
some group of these students. Those have joined us from Andhra Pradesh.
Oh, hi. Yeah.
Praneeth, yeah. So Madhu ma'am, thank you so much. Uh,
Hi,
yeah,
ma'am.
I think you are mute. You have to unmute yourself. You have to unmute. Yeah.
See, the thing is, we have school as working today. That's the reason we are attending from school.
That's great.
Okay,
That's
okay.
really awesome. That's really awesome.
Hi,
Thank you
Vishruta,
so
how are
much.
you? Vishruta, how
Uh,
are you?
Yes, I'm good, ma'am. I'm good.
Yeah. Nice to see you.
I'm yes, ma'am. You too.
Okay,
Hi,
thank you.
kids, everybody. Did you guys just join now?
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
Yes, they are joined now. Yes, we will continue
Okay,
now.
okay,
I will continue.
okay. So, just to bring the new kids up to date, I I'm a marine biologist. Okay, and I worked on something called river dolphins for a year, which I can tell you later about. And I'm just talking about what I studied. Like right now, I hold on, I'll tell you. Let me share my screen. All right. So I'm a marine biologist, and how did I become a marine biologist, right? I mentioned I studied marine science, and which is also called as oceanography, and it involves studying physics, geology, chemistry, and biology. And when it comes to physics, how do you study the physics of ocean water, right? So you tend to focus on the temperature of the sea. So this is from your this animation that you're seeing is from a NASA satellite, and it's showing the change in sea surface temperature, which is the temperature of the water right above the ocean from 1997 to 2015. And it has a huge range of applications because knowing the temperature of the ocean can actually tell you a lot. It can influence a lot of things. It can influence the organisms living there, like I think Sneha must have mentioned that sea turtles are normally found at warm temperatures, right? So because sea turtles cannot live in cold environments, so you won't find them near the North Pole or the South Pole. You'll mainly find them around the equator. So, you can make such inferences and guesses by knowing these factors. So this is just about temperature to do with physics. Now I'll tell you about something else. Um, can anybody tell me what that is you're seeing in the picture? Hello, you guys?
Yes, ma'am. Can I?
Yeah, tell me.
Ma'am, I think this is image near equator, which is take through satellite.
I think this is the ocean.
Yes, it is the ocean. And yes, it is taken through the satellite. Both of you are right. But what is that? What is moving around and it's like circling around? Any guesses what that is?
Ma'am, ocean wave.
Ocean waves. Okay. Um, you're very close, but they're not ocean waves. So let me ask you this. When you think about water in the oceans, it must be flowing, right? It's not stagnant. It's not a pond, right?
Cyclone.
It's
Water current.
flowing.
Ma'am, it is signal of cyclone.
No, no, it's not signal of cyclone. What you're seeing there is actually the movement of the water. So in the ocean, water doesn't move in like one direction. It's not just, from left to right and then it doesn't move anywhere else. The ocean is so huge that sorry guys, what? Could you maybe type what you're trying to say? Okay, cyclone, cyclone, cyclone. Anybody
Yes,
had a
Madhvi ma'am,
question?
you can share students' question. Madhvi ma'am, you can share students' question what they are asking. Actually, if they are speaking all together, so
Okay.
we are not
Yeah,
able to
yeah.
hear properly.
Water current. They're saying
Water
that
current.
movement is
Yes.
water current.
Yeah, exactly. The movement is water current. Okay. I'm going to go back now. That's exactly the answer I was looking for. Okay. Can you guys see my screen? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Huh. Yes. So you're right. The movement is water currents. Now, the ocean is so huge that the entire ocean doesn't move in one direction. Okay. And you can't, even if it has a general direction it's moving
Yes,
in, it
ma'am.
doesn't move straight. It moves around in circles. Okay. They go around in circles. So what you're seeing right there is the ocean currents, the surface ocean currents at least. So it's really exciting. The information was taken from a satellite and probably software was used to actually visualize it like this. And now, so that's about physics. Okay. I've only spoken about the temperature and the ocean current. You also study like variation with respect to depth. And I think the ocean depth varies, right, a lot. And its effect on the water, like the kind of waves it generates because of whether, the waves are happening in deep ocean or shallow water. Okay, so waves, water currents, temperature, pressure, depth, they all come under physics of the water. Now let's talk about geology. All right. Geology, it means study of the earth, right? but why am I studying Earth? Like, we're talking about the oceans here. What part of Earth is there in the oceans? Can someone tell me?
Ma'am, 3/4.
Huh, 3/4 is oceans, but is there land part of the
Ma'am,
ocean?
may I
Is
tell?
land part? Yeah.
Ma'am, it is because, ma'am, there is also, ma'am, sea creatures now. So, ma'am, you have to
Huh.
study about that. I think,
Yes, we
ma'am.
do have to study about that, but that would come under biology, right?
In the bottom of the sea, there is a land.
Exactly. There is land. The bottom of the sea, there is land, right? Called the ocean floor. So, EU is unbelievable, but the ocean floor impacts everything a lot. It impacts the kind of waves that can be generated. It impacts the kind of biology, the kind of sea creatures that are there, and it also impacts the chemistry of the water. So it's very important. And the ocean floor, if you picture the ocean floor, do you picture a plain surface like a road, but made out of sand? How do you picture the ocean floor to be? Are there mountains in the ocean floor?
There is sand.
There is sand, yes. And the ocean
Yes.
floor is grass. Ah, yeah. There is seagrass, yes. There is seagrass too. And I'm going to tell you something more about the ocean floor, okay? We see mountains on land, we see pits on land, we see plains on land, on the earth, right?
Ma'am, Coral.
Yes, coral. Will come under biology, but yes, that also makes a difference in how the ocean floor looks. So the ocean floor actually looks like this. Okay. So you have your land here. Okay, and this is called a trench. So you know the Mariana Trench, right? It's supposed to be 11 kilometers deep. So that is
Yes, ma'am.
something like this, where there's a sudden deep drop in the depth, okay, of the floor, and it forms a trench. And where's my mouse? Okay, you see here there's a little mountain called a seamount. So mountains under the sea are called seamounts. Okay, and if this seamount is big enough, okay, if this seamount is big enough, it can become an island. Like it'll protrude out of the ocean, and it becomes an ocean island. Okay. Okay, so now we have spoken about trenches, we have spoken about islands and mountains under the sea. I am assuming that you guys have heard that there are something called underwater volcanoes.
Yes,
There are
Yes, ma'am.
volcanoes under the sea?
yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes.
ma'am.
So you can see that over here too,
Yes, ma'am.
right? And this is a normal plane. All right. So here, this is the plane surface that we are all picturing and imagining. And coral reefs, what somebody mentioned, is found generally in, where's my mouse again? Okay, is generally found over here. So you have your landmass near the beach. Okay. It's not quite as steep as this generally on this side. Here it goes very deep. Like when there's an ocean trench, it goes very, very deep and very steep. But generally near beaches, so you have this is a beach, and it slowly it like goes. It becomes more deeper, and it's found here. So you will find a slant like this where sunlight is still reaching. It's not deep that no sunlight reaches, and you find coral reefs on the continental shelf. Okay. Uh, so yeah, that's an image of one of the underwater volcanoes. Um, so underwater volcanoes generally are found in the deep ocean. And can you guys take note of what you see around the volcano on the floor, on the ocean floor? Can you guys tell me what you see?
Ma'am, I think it is the ocean plant.
This is
Ocean mount.
Um, okay, I'm not sure what I. Yeah, there are some plant-like structures, right? It's not barren, it's not
Yes,
empty.
ma'am,
There
like
are
it
things.
ocean plant.
Okay, yeah, they're somewhat like ocean plants. They are, yeah, true. Somewhat. Actually, they're not plants. They're animals. Um, they are animals. They can be no plants found here because these fumes that are released by the volcano are very toxic, and it only microorganisms like bacteria, they generally survive in this environment. But you also find animals, surprisingly, even though there are no plants. So even in such a barren environment, like these animals, they kind of try to, instead of living off sunlight, they try to derive energy from whatever is coming out of the volcano itself. So a lot of hydrogen sulfide and methane, they try to live on these chemicals, and they try to chemosynthesis. You've heard, right? Have you? Like photosynthesis, you have chemosynthesis. Has anybody
Yes,
heard
ma'am.
that word?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So what these
Yes,
animals
Yes,
do
ma'am.
ma'am.
is that, yeah, they live in association with bacteria that can chemosynthesize. So it's like they're friends, okay? The bacteria and these animals that live near the deep sea volcanoes, they're friends. So what they do is the bacteria, it takes everything that's coming out of the volcano and it makes food from it. There are a lot of chemicals coming out of the volcano. So it makes food from that and it gives it to the animal. The animal in turn gives shelter. Probably like there's this one animal which hosts the bacteria inside its mouth, and it's like a tube, and all the bacteria are there. So the animal swallows the water. It can't move, but it swallows the water, and all the chemicals that are there in the water is used up by these bacteria, and the bacteria make food. And because the bacteria anyway are there inside the animal's body, it's giving the food directly to the animal. Okay, so that's how it works. Um, so if you can see even the example of the underwater volcano, you can see it's a geological feature, right? And at the same time, this geological feature, because it's throwing up so much of chemicals into the water, it is affecting the chemistry of the seawater, right? And in turn, because there is a difference in the chemistry of the seawater, these different sort of animals are able to survive. So do you guys see how everything is kind of interlinked with each other?
Yes,
Hello?
ma'am.
Yeah? This is just one example of
Yes, ma'am.
such.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. All right. This is just one example of such kind of, influences of these four subjects that one affects the other invariably. Okay, or two, three of anyway. So this is just one of such examples. And geology also has something else. What do you see in this picture here that has just come up? Anyone? Can somebody tell me what these people are holding in their hands?
Ma'am, I think they are holding a pipe-like structure.
So here what you see is a pipe-like structure, but here what you see is actually ice. So geologists, what they do, and even one of my friends is also working on this, they go to the polar regions, either to the Arctic in the North Pole or the Antarctic in the South Pole, and they drill holes in the ice pack that is there. And once they drill holes, they come up with these columns of ice, okay, very long columns of ice. They drill out of the ice sheet. And why are they doing this? So they take the ice and they go to the lab, okay? And in the lab, they try to understand how much of dissolved gases, like how much of dissolved oxygen is there in the ice, how much of carbon is there in the ice. They try to determine all of this. And what this tells us is what has happened in the earth like years ago. It can tell you the climatic conditions during the history of the earth. Why is this so? Because the ice pack in the Arctic and Antarctic are really big. Okay, so they go really deep, which means that this ice has been accumulating from ever since, from probably thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. So when they dig out this ice and they try to see what chemicals are there, they can actually give you clues about what kind of climate was there at that particular point of time. So the deeper you go in the ice core, the older the time you're talking about. Okay. So that's another very fascinating geological subject under marine science. Okay, I'll wrap this up very quickly. So who can study marine science? Okay, you're in school right now. You will finish your 12th standard eventually. And then after 12th standard, generally people take up either medicine or they take up engineering. So similarly, you can also take up something called BSc, okay, which is Bachelor's of Science, in which you can study subjects like mathematics, physics, chemistry, and biology, biotechnology, environmental science, geology. And in foreign countries, they even offer marine science at the at BSc level. So you can do that. What I did is I studied biology basically. So I studied biology and biotechnology along with chemistry. So once you've done this, you can study marine science. Anybody from any of these subjects can take up marine science as long as you've done your BSc. Okay. So then it's like, getting promoted from one class to another. You finish your 12th, you go to your BSc, you finish your BSc and you go to your MSc. So in MSc, you specialize, you become the master of your subject, right? So that's when you can take up marine science. And now, like I mentioned earlier, marine science doesn't involve just one or two subjects. It is a accumulation of 4 different subjects, okay? Which is physical oceanography, geological oceanography, chemical oceanography, or biological oceanography. All right. So you learn all these 4 within these 2 years. And after that, if people want to study more, they go for their PhD, and that way they can become scientists, or you can become even teachers. Um, okay, so I have just finished my MSc. I haven't done my PhD yet, and I have studied these 4 subjects. So apart from very specific questions, by studying marine science, you can also address very, very important questions like all the points that have popped up on the right side of the screen: climate change, sea level rise, ocean acidification, and plastic pollution. I am almost positive that everybody have heard about climate change, sea level rise, and plastic pollution. But I'm curious, has anybody heard about ocean acidification?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No,
Okay,
ma'am.
I'll explain. Okay, I'll tell you what it is in a bit. Okay, so now I've given you a brief introduction about what exactly is marine science, right? Now I'll tell you about understanding the oceans. So how the ocean is a whole different world altogether, right? So you need to be able to try to visualize it in terms of what we already know. So before that, you can see this diagram here. There is land that's going down, right, into deep, deep, deep waters, and there is the ocean that's covering it here. All right. So there is this region on the left side of the picture where the ocean and the land actually meet, right? So these regions are called the coastal waters, and it is present on the coast of every country, of every landmass, of every island. This region exists where the waves come and crash onto the land, okay, and there's a lot of interaction between land and sea. So that's called coastal waters, all right? And then you have your open waters, which is on the right side of this diagram, which is far away from the land. Okay, and there isn't much change. Did someone say something? Okay. So just keep this in mind, and I'll tell you about the coastal waters. So when you picture coastal waters, it's something like this. It has a lot of life. It has a lot of plants. It has just a lot of animals and fish roaming around. They are something, if you have to try to relate it to something on land, it is like a forest. It has a lot of life and lots of it's a lot of productivity that's happening. There's food and shelter enough for everybody, okay? But whereas look onto your right side, the open ocean, um, can you see much of a difference? Like there's no land nearby. And yeah, sometimes you can find seabirds, but you can't really, there isn't as much. Okay, so this is only the surface that I'm showing you, just to show you how barren it is. But even if you look at the bottom of open ocean, like the region far from the land, it is still relatively barren. You see how there's only like 2 corals in this picture, right? It's not much. And everything else is just sandy and a few rocks lying around. So the open ocean which is the region that's far from the land. Like, for example, middle of the Pacific Ocean. Middle of the Pacific Ocean, I would call as open ocean. All right. So it's very barren, and it is like a desert where you don't find much food. You have to, like, survival is very difficult, but there's not much changes either. Like, the environment over there is difficult, but it doesn't change. Okay. Waves are not hitting, and it's so deep that generally, like, the waves doesn't even matter. Even if the waves are there, the sea under the condition under the sea won't change. Okay. I know the picture of the coastal waters is not very clear. So, more realistically, what you see on top is a coral reef. See the amount of fish that is there inside, right above the corals. And below that, you can see that this is a kelp forest. It's a kind of a ocean plant, sea plant that grows. All right. So you can see in coastal waters there is a lot of life. There's a lot of plant. Why? Because there's sunlight, and there is something else. But there is something else that probably you guys can't see. Definitely can't see, actually. There's something else that's making such a huge difference in the kind of diversity that you find of animals in the coastal and in the open waters. And that is because of something called phytoplankton. Have anybody heard of this animal plant, actually? Have anybody heard of this plant?
No, ma'am.
No, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Ah, okay, I can hear a few, yes. Yes, someone wants to ask something.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, tell me.
Ma'am, I'm not sure, but I have listened, ma'am. There is one fish which look like a sea plant, ma'am. It's correct or not? I'm sure or not.
Okay, I'm sure there's a fish that looks like a sea plant. I mean, I can't give you a name, but the kind of diversity you find in the oceans will shock you. I know for a fact that octopus, they kind of, yeah.
Ma'am, I
Yeah.
want to share something. Ma'am, in
Yes, Ria, tell me.
in Amazon River water, there's a pink dolphin.
That's the Amazon river dolphin, and it's pink relatively, yes. So
Yes,
you remember
ma'am.
how I said there's one in South Africa?
Ma'am, उसके बाद
In
नहीं
South America, sorry. Okay, so one of the species of river dolphins lives in South America in the Amazon River, called the Amazon River dolphin. All right, so it's like all these river dolphins are named after the rivers that they're found in. In Brahmaputra and Ria, you've been raising your hand for quite some time. What's up? What do you want to ask me?
That are also found in China.
Yes, and they're extinct in China, unfortunately. It's found in the Yangtze River in China, and they're extinct now. They're no more. They probably maybe one or two or very very few numbers, but they're officially extinct. Yeah. Even our river dolphins are quite endangered.
The plant you were telling, ma'am,
Sorry?
and the plant you were about saying that, मैम जब प्लांट के बारे में अभी मैम जब पिक्चर दिखा रहे थे मैम वो प्लांट मैम मतलब वो ना मैम अपने आप का मैम रंग चेंज करके मैम एक मतलब मैम एक पत्थर में बदल सकता है वो उस टाइप का प्लांट होता है
ऐसे plant नहीं हो सकता है. It's not a plant. You're probably talking about an animal. Because plants, okay. Have you ever a plant cannot change its consistency so much, no? मतलब कैसे बोलूं? If you even on land, when we talk about camouflage, right? Animals can easily camouflage. If a plants can camouflage. It's not like they're not camouflage, but they can look and appear in a certain way, but they can't change it very quickly, right? It takes a while, or they can only make very small changes. They can't make big changes. That's just the way their body is. It's more harder. It's not very flexible. All right. I'll actually tell you about some adaptation, like these kind of camouflage animals. I can show you some in a bit. Okay, I'll just head back. Is anybody wants to ask me something else?
No, ma'am.
No?
No,
All right.
ma'am.
All right.
Ma'am.
Yeah, no problem. You don't have to thank me. Okay. So phytoplankton, they are very, very, very important parts. You know how important plants are on land? They are very important, right? You guys must have
Yes,
learned
ma'am.
about the food chain.
Yes, ma'am.
Will the carnivores and the herbivores and everybody survive if I take out plants out of the picture?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Absolutely
No,
not,
ma'am.
right? Impossible. It's the same thing in the ocean. So phytoplankton play the role of trees and plants in the ocean. All right. They also have chlorophyll, and so they photosynthesize. Wherever there is sunlight, they will be found on the surface of the water, okay, or just below the surface of the water. These, and you can't really see them. They are very microscopic. They're so small that you can only see them under a microscope. But I assure you, if you go to a beach, all right, where there are not much of waves, it's relatively calm, and you take some water from the surface of the sea, all right, and go look at it under a microscope. I'm sure you're going to find little creatures like what you see in the picture over there. They're really small, they're really minute, but they all have chlorophyll and they all make food. Okay, and so although they're microscopic, there is still a way to see them though with your naked eye. So because they have chlorophyll, they appear green in color, which means that if I were to take a satellite image, the region wherever there's a lot of phytoplankton will appear green to me, like how you can see in the picture over there. Okay, that's a satellite image of these phytoplankton. And like I said, the phytoplankton are very, very important. They are the basis of the food chain in the entire ocean. Okay, so you recognize the food chain from the small fish to the shark, right?
Yes, ma'am.
From here,
Yes, ma'am.
so the small fish are eaten by little bigger fish, which are eaten by bigger carnivorous fish, and eventually this carnivorous fish is eaten by a shark. Okay, and this shark is, because it's the last animal on the food chain, it is called the apex predator, which means top predator. Okay, there is no other animal that can eat the shark that we know of yet. Generally, they're apex predators. But right now, I have introduced two new things in the food chain to you. I have introduced a phytoplankton, which are plants, and I have introduced zooplankton. All right. So wait, let's just talk about what these words mean. Phyto means plant, okay? And plankton means floating. So essentially, phytoplankton are floating plants, and zooplankton, where zoo means animals, means floating animals, all right? So
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, about these floating animals, some of them just stay that small, but a lot of them are actually babies of crabs, of prawns, of oysters, right? The one that opens up like the clamshells, that it opens up and then you find little
Ma'am,
pearls
and it
inside.
has the pearl.
Ha,
It has a pearl
exactly.
in it.
Yes, so oysters, clams, all of their babies at one point are zooplankton. Like they go to the surface because so they are like butterflies. Butterflies are also insects, right? They're invertebrates, as in they don't have a skeleton inside. So the zooplankton are a lot like that. These crabs, actually, they're all like that. So crabs, prawns, they all don't have a skeleton inside either. They don't give birth to their babies. They make eggs. Excuse me. And when they make these eggs, they go to the surface and these zooplankton hatch out from it. All right. And why do they have to do it? Because, if they go to the surface and they hatch over there, then they have so much of food right around them. It doesn't matter if they're near the coast or they're in deep waters. They see the phytoplankton and they're very happy to eat it. Okay. And they eat away the phytoplankton, which is their source of food. And then eventually they eat and they eat and they eat. And then they become the adult. They become the crab or they become, a oyster or a clamshell. All right. So all of these babies constitute the zooplankton. and they are in turn eaten by the small fish, and as you can see, the food chain. All right, so that's how it goes. Um, Now, I am assuming that this zooplankton will be eaten by small fish, but in the open ocean, what if there's no small fish? No, then what? The shark cannot come and eat the zooplankton or phytoplankton. They're not made that way. They have to like eat properly. They have to chew the meat. They can't just swallow and digest from the water. But in the open ocean, what can happen is that is a whale. What you see on your right, okay? So these whales don't eat very small fish. They actually feed on the phytoplankton and zooplankton. And how they do it is that they just come to the surface, they open their mouths, and they gulp all the water at the surface. They gulp down whatever, if they think that there's phytoplankton or zooplankton over there, they will go up and they will drink up the water. And you see how the teeth of the whales are over there? Do you guys notice the teeth of the whale?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. There are hundreds of teeth. मैम
Is
उसके
it
दांत
does
मैम बहुत नुकीले और मैम एक दूसरे के साथ जुड़े हुए हैं.
मैम आपको पता है
हाँ जुड़ा हुआ है ना? Yeah, they're all someone is saying something. Sorry. They are joint, yes, and they're like a brush. They're not like our teeth. They're not separate. They're not hard. Okay, they're like a brush. So when they drink the water, yes, tell me.
Ma'am, you are talking about sharks and whales, so I remember the shark that is ma'am megalodon. So ma'am,
Yes.
do that shark exist today?
No. No, no. That
तो
shark
मैम एक
doesn't exist.
मेगालोडॉन नाम की एक शार्क थी मैम बहुत
हाँ,
बड़ी
हाँ.
वो और
Very
मैम
huge.
यस मैम और मैम कुछ साइंटिस्ट ऐसा भी कहते हैं कि मैम वो शार्क मतलब मैम जो गर्म वाली नदियां होती है ना जो मतलब उनका पानी बहुत गर्म होता है वो वहां पे रहती है.
No, 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 no. It's extinct now. You can't find. There are rumors कि megalodon हो सकता है in deep waters, but it's not true. I'll show you in the next slide. Hold on.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I've spoken about phytoplankton, which is the basis of the food chain. So now let me talk about the apex predators, okay? So these are the apex predators, as in the top predators of the ocean. Just give me a second, you guys, 1 minute. Okay. Does anybody recognize what that black and white animal is that's biting the shark?
Whale.
yes.
Can whale? Okay. Can somebody tell me the
Mom,
name?
killer whale. Killer whale.
Perfect. It's a killer whale or orca. Okay, it's also called as orca. So, all right. Now, 1 minute. Okay. So, these apex predators of the ocean, the shark and the killer whale or orca, are like the bear, the tiger, and the lion of the land. Okay. They are very important. You know that these predators, the lion and tigers, are very important, right? If you take them out of the ecosystem, have you heard of the kind of imbalance that can happen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, whoever said yes, can you tell me what happens when if I remove a tiger from an ecosystem, from a habitat?
If we will remove the tigers, then all the deers, number of deers, wild boar will increase and they will eat all the plants and we will also die.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much. All right. And now that is exactly why, like, that's the exact reason why apex predators are very, very important, even in the oceans. And I'll give you, we know, like she said, we know examples on land, okay? But I'll give you an example in the ocean. Okay. So you see that in this series of pictures on top, you can see a very healthy coral reef, right? There are a lot of corals, they're big, they look healthy and rich, okay? And this was in November 2007. People went back to the same place in May 2010, and they saw that everything was destroyed. Like everything was gone. There were no more corals. Not even the dead body of the coral was there. It was just empty. Okay, you can see the destroyed coral reef down here. It looks very barren and empty. But what happened? Like, what exactly? How did they just get destroyed? Okay, so like how the deer starts eating up the grass a lot in this coral ecosystem, this particular starfish called the crown of thorns, they increased in population tremendously. And they started, and you can see even in the picture, this particular starfish is actually eating the coral beneath it. Okay. So when there were a lot of these numbers, they started eating the corals and eventually it became like this. But why did that even happen? Why did the number of starfish increase all of a sudden? So that's because of us, actually. So a lot of the fish that are there in these coral reef ecosystems eat the starfish. But because we also fish in the coral reef ecosystem, because you get a lot of fish in coral reefs, okay? That's the truth. You have a lot of fish, and so people fish in coral reefs. And during that time, they have taken out the predator of this crown of thorns starfish. So because that number dropped, the crown of thorns starfish increased and eventually destroyed the entire ecosystem. And you can see there's barely any fish also in the destroyed ecosystem. Like at least there's something in 2009, but you can't find much once an ecosystem is destroyed. Okay, that's just an example of how things can go really bad if you take out a very important member of the food chain. Let's talk about the other apex predators, okay? And what makes them such amazing predators. Sharks and rays, all right? They are related to fish, most closely related to fish. And they are amazing predators, not just because their body is so slender and streamlined that they can move really fast, and not because they have really sharp teeth, but they have an extra sense which helps them to hunt, okay, which is called electroreception. Okay, electroreception means being able to sense electricity, okay, at all. And let me ask you this question: which is a better conductor of electricity, air or water?
Water.
Definitely, right? Yeah.
Water.
Ma'am, an electric eel. Ma'am, an electric eel is an aquatic animal which lives in water and it produces electricity.
Ma'am,
Yes, it is. Yeah.
ma'am, sharks are not doing so
One sec. I'm sorry. Your voice is breaking. Sharks are the.
Ma'am, water is a very good conductor of electricity.
Yes, water is a very good conductor of electricity. And what you need to understand is that every living organism, they produce electricity, okay? And I can't sense the electricity that you are producing. If you were to sit next to me, I can't sense the electricity that you are producing, because air is just not that good a conductor. It is very subtle. It's very, very, very small sensation, but it's there, okay? And we can't feel it at all because we're surrounded by air. So there's no point. But in the water, if you evolve in such a way to sense this thing, it can really help. So these sharks and rays have something called electroreception. So they use this conductivity of water to actually sense electricity coming from other organisms. So how do they do that? This arrow that it's pointing at the shark is not pointing at the shark's nose. It's pointing at small holes. Can you see that here? So it's present somewhere here,
Yes,
right under their, yeah,
Ma'am,
right
they're
under their snout.
electromagnetic holes.
Yeah, they are electroreceptors called ampullae of Lorenzini. Don't worry about the name. but these are the electroreceptors, and these receptors also run by the side of the shark. So along this line here, like the side of their body on either side, it runs, okay? And they can sense when if there is a prey nearby, even if they can't smell them or see them, they can sense them because of this electroreception, and which makes them amazing predators. They can sense their prey from far off. Okay, and okay, that's about sharks and rays. Now let's talk about dolphins. Dolphins are the second, like they are the next best apex predator in an ecosystem. In fact, sharks and dolphins can also have a lot of fights. Okay, and sharks generally, like, they don't move in groups, but dolphins can. Like dolphins do. They very rarely are alone, unless it's like a male who has just wandered off. So if you tend to see like fights between sharks and dolphins, if a shark comes and tries to bite a dolphin, and then the dolphin's friends or like its family is just like, no, okay, I need to go like help this person out. So you can see a lot of other dolphins come and they try to bite or shoo off the shark, try to hurt the shark, and they try to scare it away. So these two are huge apex predators in the ocean. And dolphins are such amazing apex predators because they, like I said, they have a lot of teamwork into play. They're very friendly, not just with human beings, but among themselves. And they're very intelligent. They're really, really intelligent. They have descended from mammals like us, except that the last closest relative to a dolphin that I can pick now is probably a cow. Okay? So they have descended from cow-like animals years and years and years ago. Like around 4 million years ago, they descended from cow-like ancestors. Somebody mentioned that these are killer whales, right? Hello? You guys, do I have you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All right. Just checking if you're all still there with me. Okay. So the picture that you see, you guys mentioned are killer whales, and somebody also said that these are whales, right? Let me tell you something about orcas. They are called killer whales.
Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
No, I thought someone was asking me a question. Sorry. Okay. So orcas are called killer whales, okay, but they're not called killer whales because they are whales. They are actually dolphins. They are related to dolphins and not whales, all right? And they're called killer whales because they kill whales. Like these animals, these dolphins, these dolphins are so very social that they work together in a huge team, and they take down humongous whales that is probably like 50 times their size. So I think Ria, was it you who was mentioning about Megalodon?
Yes, ma'am.
So this picture that I just popped up here, this picture shows all the apex marine predators ever since like before the dinosaurs, okay? So the first fish that you see here, this was the biggest marine predator before the dinosaurs came into the picture, all right? And then time passed, the dinosaurs came, it became the Cretaceous period. And during that time, the Cretaceous period is during the dinosaurs' time and a little after, okay? So this crocodile-like fish, where's my cursor? Yeah, this crocodile-like fish that you see here, that was the biggest predator. Then came the megalodon, and you can see the difference in size. There's a human being right above the megalodon here. Can you see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so you can see how big this fish is. It's a huge, huge shark. It's a very huge shark.
Ma'am,
But
and this shark has power to eat a big luxury ship.
oh, is it? Oh my gosh, they're very powerful. I mean, I can imagine if our great white sharks itself are so strong, something that is at least like twice or thrice the shark of the great white must be humongous and very, very strong. But I don't know, for some reason, the megalodon it got extinct. Probably because the size of even the whales also reduced. I'm not sure. Maybe they ran out of the food of their normal food. But for some reason, the megalodon has become extinct. Okay, and
Ma'am, I know the reason.
do you know the reason? Could you tell me?
Yes. Ma'am, that reason is megalodon shark is a shark which cannot able to survive for a long time in cold water. It can only survive for a long time in ma'am, warm water.
Are you sure about that? Absolutely sure about that.
Yes, ma'am. I have मतलब मैम हमने इसके ऊपर एक वीडियो देखा था.
हाँ, अच्छा. Okay, all right. Because I am a little doubtful about that because I look it up though. Because generally such animals that are this huge, they venture a lot into deep waters to find big fish or big prey, right? So that's why I mean warm waters is fine and good and all, but it's mostly probably you're probably right. I don't know. Maybe it's warm waters near the equator that it's staying. But even in the equator, if such a huge animal has to exist, it has to go into deeper waters because they just might not be enough space in shallow. Like, suppose imagine I'm a grown human being, okay, and I go to a kiddie pool. I go to a kid's pool. The water is very shallow. I don't have enough place for myself over there. Even if I want to go and play with children, I can't stay there for very long, right? I won't be able to swim.
Yes, ma'am.
So I will have to go into deeper waters because my body size is such. So I think it's the same. It makes logical sense that this megalodon also needs to go into some deeper waters, and if the waters are um, warmth is probably just there until maybe 300 or 500 meters at most. Afterwards, the water becomes really cold. Yeah, it becomes pretty cold. So I think I'm not sure about maybe the shark like was moving around a lot. Anyway, I'm not too sure about that. I'll cross check and let you know. So
मैम
after the megalodon, yeah.
इसलिए थे क्योंकि मैम उसमें मैम क्योंकि मैम अर्थ के मैम 95% ऑफ मैम रिवर लेक मैम वाटर बॉडीज को अभी तक मैम एक्सप्लोर नहीं किया गया है. ओनली मैम 5% मैम अर्थ की मैम वो वाटर बॉडीज को एक्सप्लोर किया गया है अभी तक completely.
True. And the major part of the oceans that we have not explored is deep sea. Well, it's difficult, but yeah, the deep sea is the major part that we haven't explored yet. And there are rumors that, somewhere in the deep sea, there are probably still a few megalodon there, but nobody has ever seen any evidence of it. We only know, historic remains of their teeth, their bones we have gotten, but we have no solid evidence that the megalodon is still there. And scientists argue that even if the megalodon is still there, let us assume that it's there, what is it feeding on? And if it has fed on something, there should be evidence. So that's how you search for evidence. Okay, suppose the megalodon is there in the ocean, in the deep waters, then it should be feeding on something because it's a carnivore, right? And the most logical sense that it would feed upon is the whales because that's the biggest animal in the ocean at the moment, right? Whales are the biggest. So the megalodon would probably feed on the whale. But if that's the case, then we should have, or we search to find the dead body of a whale with the teeth marks of a megalodon. So that would prove as evidence to its existence. It is possible that the body just sank and it was never found. But that's the conflict, that's the argument that's happening right now about the megalodon.
Yes.
All right. So after the megalodon came the great white shark. And then now on top, which is bigger than the great white shark, and like you saw in the previous picture, in the previous slide, is the orca, the killer whale, which is big enough to pick a fight with a shark and kill it. They don't normally eat sharks because it's not their food, but they can kill sharks if they want to very easily. And because I spoke about, okay, and just to mention, because I didn't mention them, in the polar habitat, you have the polar bear, which is also an apex predator, and you have the leopard seals, leopard seals are found in the South Pole, and they love eating penguins. They absolutely love eating penguins. And they're amazing predators too. They're very, very flexible. Okay, now coming back to the orcas. So this video shows a group of orcas. I think there are 4 orcas in that video who is trying to eat up a whale. They're trying to kill a whale. You can see the whale there.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ah. So this looks like a relatively smaller whale, but orcas have also been known to, drown humpback. Humpback whales grow very huge, very very huge. Probably the size of a calf of a humpback whale is probably the size of 2 cars put together, approximately. So they all what they do is they try to drown the calf. So they work in social groups, okay, and they have a lot of teamwork in their hunting strategies and everything, which makes them amazing predators. And intelligence always helps. So, all right. You guys were curious. Rohit sir told me that you guys are very curious about deep sea evolution, how the creatures actually cope with such hard conditions, right? And so I've taken these hard conditions as light, the absence of light. It's very dark in the deep ocean. So do this. Some I don't know if some of you might have already done it. Stand in front of a mirror and look very closely into your eyes. Okay, you see your pupil, the black part of your eye, the small dot. Look at it, observe it. Okay, and then flash light into your eyes. Flash some light into your eyes and see what happens to your pupil. All right, because there is so much of light, it will become smaller. The black part immediately will become small. So vice versa, if there is very less light, you can't see this because you can't see yourself in the dark in the mirror. But in the dark, okay, when you're trying to see something, because there is very little light, after it's like when you walk into the dark from a lit room, everything is suddenly black, right? You can't see much. But after a while, you can somewhat start making out something at least. You can see faintly, right?
यस मैम, जब मैं
So
रूम
how
में
is
सोती हूँ अचानक से ज्यादा अंधेरा हो जाता है, उसके बाद में अंधेरा कम हो जाता है.
exactly? तो ये कैसे कम होता है ना? Like how does this suddenly happen? कि like 1 minute you can't see anything, next minute you're able to see something at least. So it's because of your eyes, because there's so very little light. That black part of your eye that you must have seen in the light, it becomes smaller. In the dark it becomes bigger. So it becomes big to allow whatever little light is there, it tries to allow it inside the eye so that we can see. So the same thing with deep sea organisms. They either grow very huge eyes to allow whatever light is there around it to come inside, or they just become blind. They just, they forget about the whole eyesight thing, and they become more enhanced in other senses like touch. So they can feel vibrations, even minute vibrations in the water, they'll be able to feel it, or their sense of smell also. Okay. Now let's talk about food. I told you, unless there is an underwater volcano, food is a problem. Food is a major problem because you don't have plants in the deep sea. There's not enough sunlight. Even for phytoplankton, they can't. Deep sea is where it's like way below the ocean, right? The phytoplankton would be somewhere on the surface, and so that doesn't help either. So how do deep sea organisms eat if they are not near an underwater volcano? What happens is whatever is floating above the sea floor, like including the phytoplankton on the surface, when they die, everything when they die, they start sinking, right? So all the dead organisms above in the water column, above the ocean floor, they all start sinking. And this is called marine snow because you can see in the picture, it looks like snow, right?
Yes, ma'am. It's
Yeah, it looks like
Yes,
snow.
ma'am.
So this
Yes.
comes down and this is eaten by bacteria, by crabs. So a crab is probably walking in the deep sea and it finds a broken piece of a fish, and it'll pick it up and it'll eat because that's the only source of food it can find, right? And or maybe you can also find carnivorous fish or carnivorous predators that eat these scavengers. But that's the only sort of life forms that you can find because you can't find plants. So you don't find normal fish, you don't find herbivores for sure. No plants, no herbivores. They're either scavengers or their predators. Okay. And the fourth problem we have in the deep sea is that it gets very cold. The waters can range from -1 to 4 degrees Celsius, which is pretty cold. Okay. So to deal with temperature and pressure, the body of organisms adapts. Okay. So it's like animals.
Ma'am, your voice is not coming.
Ma'am, you are not audible.
What had happened to ma'am? What had happened to ma'am? There is network issue to ma'am. Ma'am has left.
Yes, students. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
How was the session?
Sir, very nice.
It was
Very,
very nice.
Sir,
Very, very
nice.
nice.
very nice.
Sir, very, very thanks.
Sir, session has ended.
Yes, actually, I think ma'am is facing some network trouble over there, but it's already 1 hour 20 minutes, and I'm very happy that you people are here. Still, okay, you are so curious that you are interested to attend the session. That's very nice. You are continuously attending the session. It's 1 hour plus. Okay, all right. So if you have, yeah, ma'am might be facing some little bit network trouble. So here, thank you everyone. Thank you, Snehi. Your presentation was really awesome, really great. Okay, and if anyone has any doubt, they can share their questions with me. I will share it with ma'am. All right. If you have any further doubt in this session, I will let me try once again to call ma'am. Okay, if she, I'll be back to you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So we will end the session here. Is there anyone who would like to share something with other students? Yes,
Yes, sir.
Satvik. Satvik is here. Satvik would like to share something. I can see your responses here in the chat section. Yes, Ria.
सर आई वांट टू शेयर दैट सर जो मैम की लास्ट स्लाइड थी जो मैम ने प्रेजेंट की थी तो सर उस स्लाइड के लेफ्ट कॉर्नर पे सर एक फिश पिंक कलर की फिश की फोटो थी तो सर उस फिश का हमें नाम तो नहीं पता पर मैं सर हमें उसके बारे में एक फैक्ट पता है कि सर वो जो फिश होती है ना वो अगर उसे बाहर पानी से बाहर रख दिया जाए तो मैं सर वो 2-3 मिनट के अंदर अंदर पिघल जाएगी क्योंकि सर वो 90% वाटर से बनी होती है वो फिश सो उस फिश के बारे में हमने पढ़ा था बुक में
Okay, all right. That's great. That's great. Yes, Anukriti, would you like to share something? You have raised your hand.
Sir, the session has ended or not?
I have a doubt.
Sir, the session has ended or not?
And ma'am is also going to reconnect. We will end the session. Let's ma'am join. Okay. And yes, Anukriti, would you like to share something? Your response was awesome, really awesome. That polar bear and tiger.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, that was really amazing.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, welcome.
Hi, sorry, my phone switched off. Okay, good thing at least you got like a 5 minute break. I began boring myself a little bit over there. Are you guys bored by any chance?
No, ma'am.
Are you able to?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I know it's a lot of information to process, but take your time. It's all right, and you can always refer back to the presentation any day. Um, quick question. Like, do you think oxygen is less or more in the deep ocean?
Ma'am,
Ma'am,
more.
less.
More.
Less. Okay, yeah, I thought so as well, but turns out the oxygen in the deep ocean is actually pretty high. It's as almost as high as what you'd find on the surface. And this is because I told you, right? The ocean, the water in the ocean, it does not stay stagnant. It keeps circling, right? So as it goes in circles on the surface, it also circulates from the deep water to the surface water. And in regions wherever it's cold, the water sinks down because
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
you know that, right? Cold water is more denser than hot water, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
मैम वो डेंस
And
होता है इसलिए मैम उसमें मैम O2 की मात्रा मैम ज्यादा हो जाती है.
exactly. So cold water can trap oxygen much, much, much better. So because cold water is sinking to the bottom anyway, and it has a lot of oxygen, and this cold water, because it's sunk to the bottom, it's running near the ocean floor, right? Because the ocean floor is at the bottom of the ocean, and it is sunk down to the bottom. So there's actually a very high supply of oxygen down in the deep waters. And with respect to pressure, the animal won't have a problem like trying to balance out pressure, the high pressure of the deep ocean, if its body is like the water around it. So if you notice, if you see any deep sea creature, you'll see that their body is very gelatinous. It's very much like jelly. Can you see the blobfish over here?
Yes, ma'am. That fish
Yeah,
name is blobfish. Now I came to
blob.
learn
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
मैम वो फिश मैम मतलब मैम बाहर रख देते हैं उसको मैम मतलब पानी से बाहर निकालेंगे तो वो मैम पिघल जाएगी फिश.
Yeah, they can't survive. These deep sea creatures, they cannot survive if you take them out from deep water because they're so adapted to high pressure conditions कि ऊपर आ गया तो pressure कम हो जाता है ना, and so they die technically. Their cells burst.
मैम वो फिश में
Um,
पानी से बनी होती है मैम.
Ma'am,
कंप्लीटली वो मैम
ma'am, I
पानी से बनी
can't
होती है
see the
मैम.
presentation.
मैम
oh,
मेल्ट हो
you can't
जाती
see
है
the
वो.
presentation. I'm so sorry, I forgot to share the screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Hold on. I completely forgot to share the screen. Yeah. This animal here is what I'm talking about. The blobfish. So you see how jelly-like it is? Can you guys see now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And I can't
Hello?
मैम
see
उसका
them.
टेक्सचर में बहुत स्लिपरी होता है.
Huh.
It has a
True.
slippery texture.
Very slippery. It's like jelly. Okay, it's like
Ma'am,
jelly.
it is capped like that now, so I feel that it is slime.
It is. It does look very slimy. And here's another interesting thing about deep sea creatures. They stink. They stink a lot, and they stink for a reason. You know the normal fish smell you get, right, from fish markets. So
Yes, ma'am.
that
They are so stinky.
they are very stinky. So that is because of trimethylamine oxide, okay, called TMO. Okay, it's called trimethylamine oxide, which I mentioned in the presentation here, and that actually helps in preventing the cell from bursting when there is pressure difference. Okay, so this compound is present in fish that are there that we eat also, which is what gives the smell. But this particular compound also increases a lot when you take a fish from deeper regions because the fish need more of this particular compound to be able to keep its cell from bursting because well the deeper it is the more pressure there is, right? So So basically, it has a lot of trimethylamine oxide, all of the deep sea creatures. And if you take it out, they will be probably 10 times more stinkier than the normal fish we eat. Last thing about deep sea evolution is bioluminescence, which is very fascinating to everybody. Um, a lot of animals in the deep sea bioluminescence is nothing but glow in the dark, okay? Just to clarify. So you can see this animal, it's glowing very, very prettily. And animals use this for a variety of reasons. It's not just for one or two reasons. Either they're using it to tell something to some other animal, they're using it to see around themselves because it's very dark, or they're using it to trap prey, like how we see in what was it, Finding Nemo. So you see there's an angular fish that kind of tries to trap Dora and Nemo. And then you have counter illumination where it's using the light as a torch to find food. And also it can be used to confuse an animal that's trying to eat you. And these are a couple of so this is like this animal is somewhat related to jellyfish, and it's probably having bioluminescence to see for itself. All right, that's a jellyfish itself.
Vishruta, sorry to interrupt you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Should I wrap it up? I'll wrap it up.
Yes. We have to wind up the session now because it's about 1 hour 30 minutes.
Oh my God, it's 1 hour 30
minutes. If is there any query
so
of the students, I will share with you.
Yeah, sure. Just like one more slide and then I'll like conclude it because that's I think I haven't even gotten to the fun part yet.
All right, Vishruta.
Okay, so these are all videos of bioluminescence that you can see. That's the anglerfish in Finding Nemo. This is the fun part. Okay, so camouflage that I was talking to you about. I've used the examples of cuttlefish and octopus, which are related to snails. Okay, they're called mollusks. So in this picture here is the skin of cuttlefish. Okay, it is a 3-layered skin that they have. One layer has brown, yellow, and red colors, and the other 2 layers of skin reflects light. And all 3 of them together gives the effect that you're seeing in the picture, right? So what do these animals do with this? So that's a cuttlefish, and it's trying to hypnotize its prey by, well, that kind of display of colors. It's a very hypnotic color illusion that it gives, and it's beautiful. The second is, watch closely the second video over here. Did you all see that? The octopus is just emerging out of nowhere.
मैम वो एक ऐसा ऑक्टोपस है जो मैम अपने आप को मैम पत्थर में बदल सकता है मैम, मतलब अपने नेचर के हिसाब से नेचर का कलर ले लेता है, अडॉप्ट कर लेता है.
Exactly. All octopus can do that. It's not just some kind of octopus. All of them can do it. Every single one of them. Like this octopus, if it wants, it can just look like a snake also, like in the next picture. Okay, see, both these octopus are the same. They're the same species, but they can look vastly different. So the first octopus that you're seeing here, जो पत्थर जैसे दिख रहा है, that one is camouflaging, okay? But the one and the next one, so octopus are also very smart. They know how their surrounding looks and they try to blend in. Or another way that they can do it is they can try to imitate other animals. So this second octopus, which is striped, black and white, it's only making itself look black and white, and it's trying to imitate a sea snake. Doesn't that look like a snake to you?
Ma'am, it is looking like venomous coral snake.
Exactly. Yes, it looks like a very venomous snake, but it's actually an octopus. Okay, that's it. That was like the most interesting thing that I had to show you. I'll just tell you something quick about the mantis shrimp. They're very strong. They punch. You can see it punching the crab, right? So it punches the crab and then it eats it. And their punch is like, it has the strength of a bullet. So they're really strong. They're found mostly near coral reefs. And this is another spider crab. So they're called spider crabs because they have very long legs like spiders. And here they're actually gathering together to mate. So all of these shrimps and these crabs, they're all invertebrates, and they're the most common, most populated species, animals that you can find in the sea. Okay. I'll actually wrap it up here. Importance of the oceans is very important, but I think I'll need more time to explain it to you guys. So I'm ending it with that. Yeah, Ria. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Ria is facing bit network issue. I will share Ria's question to you, Vishruta. All right.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
And it was
Sorry
really
if
amazing
I
session, Vishruta. It was really
took too
amazing.
long.
And students were
Yeah.
very active. They were continuously interacting with you. I would like Srishti to proceed further. Srishti?
Yes, sir. Thank you, ma'am. That was really awesome. We learned a lot. Yes, ma'am. Vote of thanks. Thank you for staying even. You had every reason to leave. Thank you for making Curiosity Club easier. Again, good afternoon to all our chief guests, Principal Sir, Director Sir, Vice Principal Sir, teachers, dignitaries, and all my dear friends. It's my privilege to give vote of thanks speech. I really want to thank who really worked hard to make this Curiosity Club happen. On behalf of JWS family, I thank from my core of the heart to our chief guest, Vishruta ma'am, who spared her previous time to grace the club. Today, in this session, we had greatest opportunity to hear your wonderful speech. This speech will surely inspire us. I would like to thank Principal Sir, Vice Principal Sir, Director Sir, who made this day happen. Last but not least, our friend Snehi, she gave wonderful talk. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks everybody. Bye.
Bye,
Thank you
ma'am.
so much,
Bye, ma'am.
Vishruta.
Thank you,
It
Thank you
was,
so
yeah.
much.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye, you guys. I wish I could have said more, but I was feeling it was too much all at once.
Yes, yes, but
Okay.
it was really amazing. Students have really enjoyed this session.
I hope
I
I
was
didn't bore any of you. If you haven't understood anything, just like tell sir, or I don't know, I'll leave my information with him so you can contact me at any time.
yeah,
Okay?
yeah, yeah,
Can
sure,
you
sure,
hear
sure,
me?
sure.
Ma'am, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah, I
sure.
can hear you now.
Ma'am, before I was saying that, ma'am, in deep water, there is a creature named box jellyfish. Ma'am, box
Uh-huh.
jellyfish is मैम दुनिया का मैम सबसे ज्यादा जहरीला जानवर मतलब मैम सबसे ज्यादा जहरीला जानवर है वो और मैम मतलब मैम किसी को भी मैम जब वो स्टिंग करता है तो मैम मतलब 200 केमिकल्स को एक साथ रिलीज करता है
Yeah, yeah. Do you know why they're so poisonous?
मैम बिकॉज इट हैज a mixture of chemicals.
Yes, it does. And it gets those mixture of chemicals, the toxin, from the food that it eats. So it eats food that are poisonous, and then it accumulates that poison in their stings, and that's how they sting.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All righty. So have a nice evening, everybody. Okay?
Yes. All right. Thank you, Vishruta,
Bye.
once again.
Yeah. Bye. Bye.
Bye, ma'am. Bye,
Bye,
ma'am.
you
Bye,
guys.
ma'am.
Bye, ma'am.